No! No! No!
What up, ghosts? Welcome back to the War Pop Extravaganza. It's that place where the macabre meets the mindful. And we're so happy to have you. It's me, Bob's Ghostly. And with me, as always, is
Curly hairs.
Curly. Curly hairs.
Good to be here.
Good to be here, friendo. So happy. That makes me think. I was just listening to the radio and the fucking Dukes of Hazzard theme came on, and I was like, man, if that wasn't one of the best fucking theme songs that told you exactly what that show was about. The mouth may get them, but the law never will. It told you just some good old boys, man. What's up, dude? This is the Horror Pop Extravaganza. Welcome back, everyone. Super excited to be here with you today. Another one in 2025, and we've got a doozy of a flick for you today. It's one I've recommended to a couple people. I was with a buddy of mine down in Port Huron this past week, and I told him, like, yo, watch this. And he came back the next day. And he's like, what the fuck? And I was like, yeah. I was like, that's what this is. But before we get there, how are you, curly hairs?
I'm great. I'm just excited to be here. It's MLK Day.
Yes, sir. I love me some dude. He's one of my favorite people ever. Like I have reread so many things that he said, and I feel like he aligns. Like when I look at somebody, I'm like, that's right. You know, the path of peace. We all got to be good to each other, equal to each other, and all this shit. Yeah. So, man, one human being can make a huge difference. He is very much proof of that. And yeah, so happy he did everything that he did, and people continue to, resonate with dude today. And I hope more people pick up on him. They're like, yo, yeah, fuck, be nice. That's how we're gonna.
I listened to Dave Chappelle's 17-minute intro on Saturday Night Live this weekend, dude. He is the new MLK.
I haven't heard it yet. I saw it pop up and I haven't listened to it yet, but I want to check it out. But I've said Dave was the truth. You know what I mean? In all his newest shit and everything, like I've always just supported Dave because he's honest. He is honest. He brings you an honesty that's uncomfortable though, and people don't like to sit in it. And
Right.
but I think he is one of the most like well-spoken, fucking deep thinking comedians that we've had, and he's like a Richard Pryor and shit, or a George Carlin, like somebody who just taps into the cultural zeitgeist and somehow brings it out in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, but at the same time, you're like, fuck, my man's got a point, So yeah, awesome.
Right.
I can't wait to watch it. I'm looking forward to it.
He comes out on that stage now, dude. I've seen like Donald Trump has been on that show, dude.
Yeah.
He didn't get a 17-minute fucking opening, and Chappelle goes out there with a cigarette, dude, and he's smoking right there in fucking Studio B, and then he fucking flicks his butt onto the floor, dude. He didn't give a fuck.
That's what I love about Dave. He always said that. He's like, I don't give a fuck. Find me as much as you want. I'm going to smoke. Like that's what I do when I do comedy and shit, and I don't give a fuck. But we are not here to talk about Saturday Night Live and comedy, but I am very excited about that. We're bringing some good body horror today, man. For those of you who know things like Street Trash, any of the Cronenberg stuff, I would say Cronenberg, most famously probably with The Fly, brought a level of body horror to the general populace that people had not really seen before. And that shit was gross.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah, The Fly still messes me up today. I saw it when I was 12.
Twitching all over the place and then puking and but the transformation into that fly is it sticks with you. You only have to see that once, and you know that. And so body horror is an established genre. Society is another really good one, or maybe it's high society. I can never forget if it's just society or high society. But that one's crazy where this dude like goes in through his mouth and out through his asshole and like a whole thing comes out. Body horror, but it's normally a subgenre that has a smaller following, not quite as mainstream. You don't see it all over the place. It's like, yo, have you seen Videodrome and shit,
Right.
or Rabid, stuff like that. Whereas with this, The Substance is what we are talking about today from 2024. Demi Moore walked away with a Golden Globe for this shit.
Right.
And I think that's No, it was a friend of mine, Daniel, old Navy buddy of mine, who had sent me a message, and he's like, "Yo, did you see this yet?" And I was like, "No." Heard a little bit about it. He's like, "I think it'll be right up your alley." And so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna check this thing out." I watched it, immediately told you, I was like, "Yo, you got
Yeah.
you got to watch this shit because it's something special." Uh, I have a lot that I want to say about this movie, but before we can get into that, why don't you cue it all up? Who's in it? The director, because and then once I looked back, I loved that fucking revenge movie she did
Bench.
a
Yeah.
few years ago. I love a strong female character. You know that. I'm all
Yeah.
about it. And that one dude, she goes fucking hard, like getting her revenge on these dudes. And all the way back to I spit on your grave and shit, or Last House on the Left. Like there's something I enjoy about seeing somebody get their revenge on these people who perpetrated horrible acts in all of
Right.
these flicks. It's horrible things. So she did that, and then not a lot. And I read she was like there was some studio system that was going to let her do it, and she was like, "No, I need Final Cut. I need creative control because that's the only way this works." And I'm super happy that she stuck with that because I don't see this working with the studio involved. Like you got to have, in the creative process. I just don't see this kind of kicking off. But all right, lay it on us, dude. Substance 2024. Give us all the goodies.
First of all, I want to say this is the weirdest porno I've ever seen.
I've seen weirder. I had a buddy on the ship who was really into zombie porn and wanted to show me sometime, and I was like, dude, this is fucking zombies fucking people. This is anyway.
Yeah, that's a little bit weird. But yeah, this movie it gave me all kinds of mixed feelings. And like you said, yeah, I loved the movie Revenge. It was so good. And this lady who directed this is she's like a true artist, man. Like she knows how to like take the blood and the message behind what she's trying to say and mix it all together and create these great female characters. She's
And
just
I think I read she spent a couple of years writing this, and I think she wrote it around like 40, in her 40s somewhere. And she was experiencing a lot of that self-consciousness that we see in the Hollywood system industry is like, am I valuable anymore because I'm not pretty? You know?
yeah.
And so she was struggling with that on her own and then started fleshing out this idea. And yeah, it's fucking
Yeah.
right.
There's a 28-minute behind the scenes feature on YouTube that you can watch for free that goes behind the scenes. And because the first thing I thought when I finished this movie is like, I want to know what the filmmaker thinks about certain things, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
certain things are ambiguous on purpose, but
But see, and
we'll
I
get to all
felt
that.
I felt a lot of it wasn't like I feel like she was right to the fucking point, but in a way where you still have to think about it a little bit, not necessarily, shoving it down your throat like some other flicks do.
So her name is Corley Fargate. And I
Yeah,
don't know if I
French.
pronounced that right.
Yeah, I know she's from France. Yeah, we apologize all the time for that shit.
Or
Which,
gay, probably.
yeah,
All right. Yeah. First person off the top of the list, someone I've loved throughout her career, has always played great, strong female leads.
so many good
Could
ones.
have been Ripley.
Could have
She
been.
is Demi Moore.
I mean, she was like maybe even tougher than Ripley and G.I. Jane, dude. Like
Yeah,
that
dude.
was fucking hard as fuck. And then you get the other shit like A Few Good Men. There's so many great Ghost. I mean, even Ghost, dude, is
Ghost
like,
is so
yeah,
fucking
she
good.
is so powerful. And they had said that she wasn't the first, the director had said she wasn't the first choice. But then they got I can't remember who else was on the docket who didn't want to do it. But then they got to Demi Moore. It took like 6 meetings
Yeah.
until she agreed to it. And Demi said, I started to understand these characters as representations of, these things. And then the director says, I read her biography after the fact and was like, oh shit, like she's been through all this already. And it ended up working out extraordinarily well. Her being a woman in a dominantly male driven field in the 80s when, action and shit was the biggest shit ever, when she had to stake her own claim and be like, okay, this is me. And she's continued to do it year after year. All of a sudden it's striptease, and then all of a sudden it's something else. And it's like, holy shit, Demi Moore continues to reinvent over and over. And in this one, dude, I was like, fucking A, right. Like she showed
Yeah.
up, man.
Goes up, dude. And I can understand like where she was a little leery about going into this. She's one of those actresses has always had a no nudity clause. She gets very close, but she's never been naked. In this movie, she's naked.
Bears it
She's
all.
60 years old and just naked.
And that's what the director said as well. She was like, I made sure that both actresses knew the importance of the nudity in the story. But this isn't nudity like for, you know what I
No.
mean? You say it's like pornography. For me, it's so much deeper. And we'll get there. We'll get there as we
Yeah,
talk about it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The next person to knock it out of the fucking park is Margot Qualley.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh.
I've only seen a few things with her, but she's been great in everything.
I don't remember her from much else. I might have seen her in some stuff, but I after this, I definitely want to check out more and see what she's all about.
So she's in that one, Kinds of Kindness, with Emma Stone.
Oh, see, I didn't see that one.
Supposed to be real weird. She was in Drive Away Dolls, which was a Coen Brothers thing.
Ah, I like Coen Brothers, but
She was in Poor Things with that same director and Emma
ooh,
Stone.
okay, yeah, I know that one.
And she's in Death Standing, the director's cut, the video game with Norman
Yeah,
Reedus.
with Reedus.
Yeah.
Dang, that's kind of cool though.
Yeah, she's been in like a fucking
I'm
ton
sure
of stuff.
after this she'll get a
Oh,
lot.
the big thing that she was in that everybody remembers her from is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She was the girl that Brad Pitt picks up.
There you go. Okay, yes, yes. And she's like, "You want a blow job or whatever?"
Yeah,
And you're driving around. Yes, okay.
yeah. Then we've got Dennis Quaid, who just brings it as the weirdest,
Yeah.
grossest character ever. This
Again,
was
not
originally
yeah, it was not the first choice, right?
right. It was supposed to be Ray Liotta, which
Oh,
I
but
thought
he
would have
passed
been
away.
amazing. But
Dude, Ray, Dennis brings a lot, but I think Ray would have brought something, just that extra level of grease that just Ray
yeah,
Liotta could always bring. He was a fucking superstar talent, dude. Across the board too. He could do the gangster thing, and then you see him in like Hoobie Halloween with Adam Sandler, and he's funny and shit. It's like, okay, yeah.
and then we got a bunch of dudes who aren't important.
So yeah, there really was. I mean, those three, and that's again what she brought to this is like there's not a ton of dialogue, and you really have a couple performances that have to carry the entire movie, and that's not always easy, man. Like that can be really tricky. So
Yeah.
yeah,
All right, you ready to hear what IMDb says this is about?
I'm all ready, dude. Make sure you got your read more clicked if you need it, so we don't get a.
I don't need it. I'm a professional.
Okay, okay.
All right.
All right, go ahead.
Fading celebrity takes a black market drug, a cell replacing substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of yourself. Very
That's
vanilla.
it.
That's it.
Oh, okay. And now with the marketing with this movie, they were pretty ambiguous. You know, it'd be like a fucking dirty chicken wing next to a pink leotard, and it's like, okay,
Right.
what is this about? That I don't think that synopsis prepares people for what they're about to see in this
I don't
movie.
think you should be prepared going into this.
No,
I went in
no.
as blind as I
And
could.
we're gonna spoil it, but even if this movie is completely spoiled for you, it is not going to have an impact, I feel, on how visceral the experience is once you get into it, because it is, man, is ooh. Yeah. All right, so let's do it, dude. Let's talk about this flick. We open up where did we start? It's been a couple weeks since I watched it now. I know aging Demi Moore's coming up on her 50th birthday and she plays Elizabeth Sparkle. She is a Jane Fonda-esque type character who runs an aerobic show and is hitting her 50th birthday and immediately gets fired by Dennis Quaid. He's like, "You're not pretty. Here's a book." Um, and this is the first very glaring moment of the feminist statement, you know, this thing is trying to make about the gross double standards we have in regards to beauty for both men and women. And it's played so well with him eating all these fucking shrimp and shit and just like grease
Oh.
flowing out everywhere. And you realize he's in this awesome position of power
Mhm.
a disgusting human being while she is trapped, you know, by her age. Like there's nothing she can really do about it. And so it's like, all right, we're set up for this thing. She gets really upset about the whole ordeal and is like, fuck, you know, because she had walked down and we see her looking at posters of herself, I feel like, from all the different eras of sorry, I'm just gonna adjust this just a hair.
And just gorgeous, by the way. Demi Moore has nothing to worry about. She's the most beautiful 60-year-old woman I've ever seen. I mean, think about it, dude. 60 was our grandmas. And ladies today in Hollywood do not look like our grandmas.
No, I mean the Golden Girls are supposed to be in their 50s and shit. You know
That's
what I mean? Like a
crazy.
couple of them were, I think, in their late 50s. Like they were still working, they weren't
Yeah,
retired yet and stuff like that. So she gets fired, and this is a really big hit for her. And she's driving around the Hollywood Hills or wherever, and sees her billboard up on the freeway, and they're ripping the face off. They're ripping it down. Everything in this movie matters. She was so particular about telling the story, not just with dialogue, but through the impact of the world around the characters and the result that has on their emotions and what it
right.
does to them.
Yeah,
And so she,
everything, every angle was like planned out to
yeah,
make you
yeah,
uncomfortable. Lots of low angles looking up.
right.
And something I saw in that making of feature was that she draws out everything. She storyboards everything herself meticulously, and it would make a phenomenal comic book if they
See, and
released.
I love seeing the storyboards of directors who do it and they put the time in where it's like,
Yeah,
right, that's a fucking graphic novel, dude. Like, it's great that you're so particular. Like, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. I would really think I would enjoy storyboarding something like that and coming up
oh
with
yeah,
just, yeah, it would be fun. I've done enough perspective studies too, I think, because that's just the biggest thing is making sure your perspective is good for the camera angle.
right.
Then there's also people who storyboard with fucking stick figures and put out some bangers and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just what works with your brain. But she sees the face getting ripped off and then crashes her car, like fucking bang, and she's all smashed up and shit. Now she's at the hospital and the doctor's like, "You're old." Essentially a lot of this is pointing us in the direction of the double standard that we see for men and women, which is a terrible thing. It sucks. But then this super young hot doctor comes in and he's like, "Hey, I think you might be a good," like gives her a thumb drive maybe or a
Yeah, he like hands her I think a paper or something, but yeah, it has the thumb drive and it just says the substance on it.
yeah, he's like, "I think you should check this out." And she's
Yeah.
like, "Okay," goes home, plugs it in, looks at it. It's very ominous. We don't know anything about this company. We never learn anything about this company. They just call you the most monotone, like devilish voice you've ever heard is on the other side, like just telling you, like, "Hey, you fucked up," or "Here's the thing." And she calls, gets it set up, is nervous at first, and then I think goes to there's a drop box somewhere that she needs to go to, like a post office box of some sort, or some room in a back alley that's super clean, like a medical facility, but it's in a dirty ass alleyway.
It reminds me of the toilet in Desperado.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Like it's all shitty and
Yeah.
gross, and the door doesn't even open all the way. She has to get on her hands and knees and crawl under.
Yeah.
Fucking loved that, dude. It was
Yeah.
very, and also the website and everything was very Ozempic, like the way
Very.
they set it up.
And yeah, your boy knows a lot about that shit. I launched one of them drugs, dude, as a weight loss drug when I was in
Really.
pharma. Yes, Meglitide as Saxenda was the original formulation that they launched as the weight loss drug. And now I have seen nothing funnier than that fucking South Park obesity special or that. Did you watch it?
I haven't seen it now.
Dude, it's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
like all these moms in South Park are like going to the cartels and shit to get Ozempic because they can't get enough, and it's freezing outside, and they're all just out in like midriffs. Oh, like hey, like freezing to death and shit. Like, oh yeah, nothing. I just lost a couple pounds. Don't worry. Uh, Either way, so she gets her first drug and then opens the kit. And did they call her or the kit had the instructions in it? But essentially, what's going to happen is you're going to inject yourself with the first applicator and you're supposed to throw it away after that. It's for single use only. And then she doesn't know what's really going to happen, but she gets the info that you're going to, she looks at the packages and there's like food packages for 7 days and all this stuff. She gets up the nerve, injects herself, and we do see her staring. I love this big picture she has of herself in the living room. It's a gorgeous picture of Demi Moore at relatively current age. It looks like it's supposed to be current age. And so she goes into the bathroom and injects herself. And this is where we like for real, we're like, okay, we're in for some fucking gore, dude. And this is gonna be
Right.
really gross. This is gonna be really uncomfortable because she just like and her spine splits open and just a whole nother human being out onto the floor. And the sound design in this,
Oh man.
money, dude, money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, It's
That was
just
a practical effect, by the way, too.
she said it was 80 to 90% practical, and that's what I loved about it. She's like, I didn't want it to be over reliant. Like, we need the practical for it to have that visceral
Right.
feel. And we've talked about that many times. You can see practical. You can see that and you're right. I mean, this is a fucking back opening
Yeah.
up, just like, and the fibers of the skin holding together and stretching
And it's
apart.
bubbling underneath like something trying to get out. You hear like bones cracking and
Yeah.
stretching. It is nuts.
It's nuts, dude. And then boom, there's another person on the floor.
Yeah.
Oh, and I love the names for these characters too, like Elizabeth Sparkle. And she said that was very old Hollywood, like
Right.
the name Elizabeth and the idea of sparkling under the lights of, the Hollywood, whatever studio system. And then Sue was supposed to be reminiscent of like the Marilyn Monroe baby doll-esque, those type of female characters that we saw, or I shouldn't even say characters, the way that the system wanted them to portray themselves in public, to be this bombshell who, not a lot of, yeah, all that. So we get super gross mess on the floor, dude.
Oh,
Super
so
gross mess.
nasty, dude.
And the now Sue, so Elizabeth is Demi Moore, and then Sue is shit. Now I can't
Margaret
even.
Qualley.
There you go. And she wakes up, and it's a really blurry vision, like she can't see anything, and goes over to the
And
mirror.
she's in your eyes for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. She's opening her eyes for the first time. And this is after we had seen Demi Moore. We get these long shots of these two women naked right here, observing their bodies in the mirror. And Demi Moore is
Yeah.
kind of sad about it. And then we get the antithesis when Sue wakes up, she goes to the mirror and she's just like touching every part of herself. But it's not, she's like, oh my gosh, like I am this
Yeah,
thing.
it's not sexual.
It's not at all. It is Demi Moore's desire made manifest to be welcomed back into this system. She's like, I'll do anything to get that feeling back. She's trying to live in her past in so many ways, and I'll do anything because she was at the top of all of it. So Sue then starts reading through the directions. And this made me really uncomfortable that they would just leave the other bodies on the floor like that in a crumple.
Yeah, I thought about that the whole time, dude. I was like, there'd be bruises and it would be all fucked up. Yeah, it was so gnarly. And then another thing, going back just a little bit to when they were looking in the mirror, when Demi Moore was looking in the mirror, they really focused on like imperfections, like her nipples weren't totally round and her butt cheek was kind of weird, like one
A
was up
little
and one
bit.
was down.
Yep.
And I don't know if that was actually Demi, like just being like, here it is. This is what a 6-year-old woman looks like, but probably not because they use so many different things. And Margot Qualley, when she comes in, she's wearing a prosthetic over her chest so that she has like the perfect breasts and the perfect nipples
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we do see that, and she's
Yeah.
like all of a sudden overwhelmed by this feeling of like, oh, fuck, I'm back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is, and so she goes through, at first, she's like really weary about like putting the feed bags in. She's trying to do it
Right.
right and looking at it like, oh, are you okay? But now she's got the curtains open, the sun is shining
Well,
because
don't forget what she has to
first.
do. Her first
Oh,
business is to sew Demi closed.
yeah, and very graphic.
Very. If you're
Yeah.
queasy about people getting sewed up, dude.
I mean, this is like watching Leatherface, big
Yeah.
round hook just in each part of the skin, and putting it back together. And this could be something said about our obsession with plastic surgery and stuff like that now, saying, yes, we can make a better you, but we have to destroy parts of you. And I mean, we've seen enough plastic surgery gone way too far in Hollywood and shit where people end up looking like monsters more than
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah.
Like Bruce Campbell in Escape from LA, dude. I love that shit. We're gonna make everybody pretty as fuck. Um, so the catalyst here though is that they're looking for a new star for her to leave. They're looking for a new woman to take over this thing. She goes in, and we do see the audition process. They lay that very clear. Like, oh, she's perfect if it wasn't for her fucking ugly face. And just next, next, next. People are cattle. They're just looking for a specific thing to sell a specific thing.
And they specifically were men. And
Yes.
that was so fair to make it
Oh,
two
dude.
just
So,
glaring asshole men
yep.
judging women. Like they were ugly
Right,
too.
right, right.
They
And that's
cast
the thing.
unattractive dudes to be like the two guys who are like saying, "You're ugly, you're too old." I thought that was just amazing.
It's so this movie is so good at showing you that and saying, yes, this is what it's like in a lot of ways. And it's
Yeah.
very honest and it makes you feel, and they have, like, Hollywood has come out a little bit. It was quite maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I know, like, Chris Hemsworth and Hugh Jackman were like, the lengths we have to go to this, or Chris Evans, that famous scene where she touches his chest and that shit was not in the script. Like,
Right.
she was just like, whoa. And role reversal, had a man just reached out and grabbed a woman like that, it's that idea of the beauty standard. Now, let's not say it's not completely disproportional towards women, because it is.
Right.
We saw so many women come up and just go once they start to age a little bit, and it's just like you're there for a while and then you're gone. You
In
got
the
to,
80s, it was like 30, dude. If you were over 30, you were done.
dude,
Now we're seeing like these ladies from the 80s, like Nicole Kidman playing like
right.
sexualized
Yeah.
characters and bringing kind of trying to regain what they lost in the 80s and 90s.
And I like that. I like that a lot, and seeing the stronger, even with Jamie Lee Curtis, doing Halloween. Like, women can be badass in later life. And that's important, have that out there and make that shit happen. But she is loving being Sue. She's like, holy shit, I have energy. Like, we first see her just doing the fucking splits, like stretching in the morning, bending as far as she can. And like, this is crazy. I can't believe I feel this way. She goes in, does the audition, knocks it out of the park, and Dennis Quaid comes in. He's like, oh, you're fucking beautiful. You're the best. You're our face. All he wants is the sales. And the whole time he plays it so fucking greasy, dude. They represent that Hollywood system really well, and it's super gross nature. She lands the gig, starts doing the show, which goes on, I think, in the morning at first, and then gets bumped up to prime time. Pretty soon she's going to be doing the New Year's Eve thing. But we see this quick transformation of Demi Moore becoming resentful of the younger version, the Sue, who
We
gets,
forgot to mention that yes, she can only be Sue for 7 days,
they
and then
have
she has
to,
to be
yes.
Demi Moore for 7 days. And there's no that is a solid rule. That is, do not feed them after midnight.
Right, right. Like, it's gonna go bad fucking quick, dude, if you do. And you're right. They have to switch bodies. And at first she does and is kind of okay, but we see Demi just itching, Elizabeth just itching to get back to Sue. She becomes more reclusive.
Yeah, she just stays in her apartment and eats whatever she wants and freaking watches TV for 7 days, doesn't go
Yeah.
outside. And then Sue sets it up that she can only film every other week.
She says, my mom, I have to, and Dennis Quaid's like, we'll do whatever you want. Don't worry
Right.
about it. You can, yeah. Well, I can only film such and such this many days, and then I got to go back and not. And she keeps waking up. Sue's waking up, as the movie goes on, to an apartment full of fucking chicken wings, and she's binge eating and all this shit. And it's not long before Sue tries to go a little bit longer. She brings this dude over. That's what it was. She's got this guy over. She's going to bug, and she's all into it. And she's got him on the couch, and she's like, yeah, let's do this. And then all of a sudden, she realizes the time is up. I have to switch over to Demi Moore. And she takes a little bit of the extra out of her back. And this shit is like Requiem for a Dream level needle.
Oh, yeah,
Gross, dude.
just a
Gross.
needle right into her spinal fluid. She sucks out spinal fluid, injects that, and it allows her to like stay a little longer, but it really ages Demi Moore.
Right. If they don't switch out, because when Demi Moore wakes up after that event, her finger's all fucked up.
Right.
And she calls the company and, like, yo, she's doing it. And they keep telling her there is no she.
Right.
That's the big thing. You got to stop saying this is her and you, because these are not. It's one consciousness, two bodies. You are the same person. And that's another great thing. Like, she's fighting herself the whole time. She's
Yeah.
fighting her own desire to be something that she can't possibly be. And I think this story lends really well to, you chase that too long and it's always going to end up being a monstrosity. You
Right.
chase that green dragon far enough and it's going to end up being a monstrosity. But this is when she pulled, and she's going out with friends, she's hanging out, like, don't worry, I'll come back. Sue had, I don't know how she had all this fucking contracting ability though. That was a big hurdle for me to jump over. I'm like, I can suspend disbelief, but this shit is a false wall in your bathroom, with
Right.
mechanical parts and things like that. If she was just an aerobics instructor on TV for 40 years, I just don't know if she would have had that skill level. We live in
Right.
the world of YouTube, so maybe, I don't know. But she really yeah, anyway, she builds this back room in the bathroom where she can hide the bodies, like when Demi Moore's body's going or whatever, and then when her body needs to be in there. But she jumps and she calls the company and like, this is fucked up. What do I do? What do I do? They're like, you just keep, if it happens, it happens. You're gonna age. Like, you got to stop her from doing that, but it is you. You have to do it. Sue gets so worked up in this new life and so in love with life that she just starts draining Demi Moore's body. And that
Right.
shit is gross, dude. Watching her fill up that. Because at first she's very careful, put it in the spine and slowly. And now she's just jamming it in like fucking heroin addict and just pulling out
Right.
syringe after syringe full of this spinal fluid.
Yeah,
Oh,
and her back is getting like worse and worse. It's turning into that, like you said, Requiem for a Dream, like just a big bruise pus hole.
gaping wound. Yeah, pus hole. There you go. A giant.
Fucking nasty, dude. And the only way I was trying to wrap my head around this, I was like, why would she do that? Why would she stretch it out when she knows that like she has to go back to a body that's getting worse and worse every time? And the only thing I could link it to is like addiction, which I've never been
That's
addicted
it.
to anything, but like
Yeah.
I've seen it, you know.
And I have been addicted to things, and well, one thing in particular, alcohol, but this reminded me a lot of that, those addictive behaviors. And I think even the idea of how you had to get it,
Yeah.
had to inject with a needle under the skin and
Right.
pull the actual, but this one's in your fucking back. And like you said, it's getting gross, little veiny shit coming out of it everywhere. And so she's like, fuck you though. I'm just gonna keep taking this shit. And she takes it to the point though where she then there was no more fluid left. She had like drained her dry, and she calls the company who runs the substances like, oh, it's empty. And they're like, the only way to get it back is to switch bodies. You have
Right.
to let the body, regen. And she's like, oh shit. And then Demi Moore wakes up this fucking like half monster. She's not the full, because, and they gave them all names. I want to say there were title cards. There was Elizabeth Sparkle, Sue, whatever, and then Eliza Sue was another one. And then the Gremlin, I think, was the last one that we'll get to. But she now has like a big fucked up leg, I think. Wasn't it just the leg at first?
Yeah, it started off with her finger, but I think
The
after,
finger was very first, but then I think the
yeah,
leg,
her
the
leg got
whole
really
leg.
old and gross, and yeah, she
Yeah.
couldn't walk on it very good. And then she wakes up. I call this version the hag because she
Yeah.
looks like a witch.
Yeah. When she's trying to, and her bones are all creaky, when she has to smash her leg down to get up and go get that book or whatever, that present they gave her about the
Uh,
fucking cooking French food or something. Yeah. After all those years of service, they're like, here's something to keep you busy. Bye. And that's how the Hollywood system treats it. You're fucking done, dude. Like, there is nothing. You're gone. You're too old. And she's got this fucked up leg and she's cranking around. And then when Sue finally gets back, it's like the apartment is trashed with
yeah,
food and like whole chickens because she's just sitting there watching TV. And there's a billboard though right outside the window of Sue.
right.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
constantly haunting her.
This is where she's like starts losing her fucking mind too. Like she goes from like being a shut-in to being like she's like talking to herself and like throwing food at the TV and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. And this was, yeah, the whole thing, the whole movie makes you feel really gross.
Yeah, it's cringy.
But she somewhere around here, because now the billboard is the New Year's Rockin' New Year's Eve, whatever, with Sue is gonna host.
What's the
Oh,
problem with
we
that is
forgot
that
to
it's
talk about though when Sue was at the after she starts eating everything and she pulls that chicken wing out of her belly button, dude.
oh
After the bone popped up in her ass when they're making the move or the aerobics show.
Right.
Oh, like you could see the bone and everything. Like it was just gnarly. And we see that things are carrying over from one thing to the other. Demi Moore is almost sabotaging her as Sue, and then Sue's trying to fight back against this old bitch who is her. But at this point, like you said, they clearly see themselves as independent from one another.
Right.
They don't exist, like why is she doing this? Demi Moore's all fucked up, and then when she calls back, she does call the company and says, "Hey, I want to terminate." And they're like, "Listen, you can do that. You can stop the thing whenever you want to. We hope you enjoying your." Yeah, it's very fucking Wayland Yutani, Skynet.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
nefarious, man.
Totally.
And this was after we forgot to mention she ran into old dude at the restaurant. And he's like, "It's
Oh,
getting lonely, isn't it?" And she's like, "Who the fuck are you?" And she realizes it's the nurse who had helped her at the hospital. And he's like, "It gets lonelier and lonelier every time. You just want to be back in the other body." And so you see that this dream was a pipe dream. There is no, happy ending to this. You're grasping at
Ozempic.
right. In that South Park episode, if your insurance doesn't cover Ozempic, your doctor prescribes you Lizzo body positivity. You got to check it out, dude. It was a really good South Park. But she meets this guy who she had met earlier and sees him. He's old and fucked up, and he's got the same, I think, like fucked up finger or something. We see that he was toying with it too, trying to stay longer. The
Right.
desire is too strong. Once you feel it, the desire is too strong, and you can't say no to this thing. In a way, this reminded me a lot of Requiem, like you said, with the addictive behaviors and stuff like that. We look at the lengths that people go to for beauty and things like that, and women. I feel you are treated so unjustly in this shit. The beauty standards that you're held to are unfucking real, and they
Right.
shouldn't even be there. But she's like, "Okay, I want to terminate this," and they're like, "You're gonna stay fucked up, right?" And she's like, "Yeah," and like you said, she looks like the witch kind of at this point.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
her
She
face,
ruined her looks
yeah.
completely.
But she knows she can't go on doing this.
Right.
So they tell her, "Okay, you got to come pick up this thing." And now she's all shrouded when she goes outside. She looks like Steven Tyler, Johnny Depp, covered in scarves and hoods and all these things. She goes out and picks up the termination thing. They're like, "All right, this is how you terminate the fucking your suit. This is how you do it." She's like, "All right." She gets the thing out. We get like a Pulp Fiction type moment where it's like, "Okay, I got to stab the fuck out of this chick. This is, this is scary." And she goes and I think injects a little bit of it, but she can't fucking do it. She can't kill her all the way out.
Right.
Pulls the thing out, and that's when Sue wakes up, and now they're both looking at each other.
Yeah.
And Sue sees the termination thing, and she's like, "You fucking cunt. Like, I'm gonna kill you, dude." She's rage, 100% rage. And those two fight it out for a long time. And then
That fight was great, dude. When she kicks
oh,
Demi Moore across the fucking living room.
in the chest, dude, like right in the gut, and just fucking yeah, she's strong, she's young,
Yeah.
that's the youthful part of her.
And then
And
she's just
Demi Moore
kicking
is
her, kicking
broken.
her.
Yeah, Demi Moore's like a broken old hag at this point, and yeah, she's destroying her and kills her. Right? She kills that.
Yeah. She smashes her head into the floor and she's done.
Right. Yeah, and she's bad. And now I don't think she calls the company at this point. She just gets the tries to siphon out maybe some spinal fluid or something like that.
Yeah.
But then she starts to get all fucked up now because Demi Moore's gone.
Right. And she's trying to, the whole thing is that she's like this New Year's Eve show that she's gonna host is
Right.
supposed to be the biggest thing ever. It's gonna like skyrocket her career, but the problem is that it's on her off week. So she's supposed to be Demi Moore that week. And
Right.
she's known she was gonna have to stretch it out. Now she killed her, and now she has no choice.
And so she is starting to get all fucked up, this is where this movie punched me so hard, dude. And I was like, yes, that's how you land a plane right there. That's how you land this. Is her looking at the mirror or looking at the picture of the older Demi Moore and you can see it, the longing. Like, if only I could be back to what I was at the beginning. I
Right.
was pretty. I was everything I needed to be. I was gorgeous. I was all these things. But now I'm not, and I'm turning into this fucking. Once she injects herself again, they're like, you can't use the original application again. She had kept a little bit of it, and it was like discard, single use only. It says it all over there. And she's like, I just make me a pretty version of myself again, and fucking right into her neck. And here comes the Eliza shoe monstrosity that is, oh, as they show this thing come to life with both the fucking faces on there, dude.
Demi Moore on the back, like screaming, stuck in her back.
Yes.
Oh, that was really haunting.
That was extraordinarily haunting. And she looks in the mirror and is just like fucking,
She's got an arm coming out of her back.
right. Everything looks wrong. Somehow, though, she gets her dress on and then is out there. And this right here, dude, again, so powerful. She cuts the face off the picture that she had taken down when she was Sue, when she was young, awesome Sue, because she didn't want to be reminded. Now she's like, I want that. Like, if I could only be that again. Smashes, I want to say busts her face all over the fucking mirror for a second, and then cuts out the face off the picture and puts like glue all over her face and just slaps it on there and cuts a couple eye holes out.
And then puts the lipstick on the outside of it, which
Oh,
is more gnarly. She's just this blob of flesh and arms and fingernails, and she fucking has this thing stapled to her face and this dress put on. One of her tits is like poking out of a hole in it.
dude, and it looks like something from Resident Evil. It looks like, or
Yeah, it's
Slither.
bad.
You remember when Elizabeth Banks turned into that? It reminded me of that now that I think about it.
Totally.
And she's just like, I'm so pretty. Walking down this same hall that we had seen, very Shining-esque. It was,
Oh, the carpet was like The Shining. Like, it was,
yeah, it was very deep. And she makes it onto the stage. Like they let her get far enough, which to me was so bizarre that she gets far enough and gets out there. And for just a split second, everybody's like, yay. And then all of a sudden they're like, the fuck? And she's out there like begging for adoration.
right.
Like, love me, I'm pretty. And it's, or the thing from you remember the mom from House 2? Or was it House? It's the first house or this?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, the first
boy's
house.
mom in the first house where she's got the dress and the pearls, but she's this fucking nightmare.
Yeah, dude.
That was like this. They start screaming, gasping. She's panicking because she expects everyone's going to be there to love her.
Right.
And they all start like, kill the monster. And again, this is, I think, harkens all the way back to Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Wow. Saw the mob mentality response to the Frankenstein monster on the stage and all that shit. This kind of pulls back to bed, and she's like, no, I'm not a monster. And they're like, nah, kill her. And they fucking cut her head off. Dude,
Yeah.
they chop her head off. One of them does. Another head grows back out, and then one of her arms is lopped off. And we got some Peter Jackson level blood spray from Brain Dead just all over, Dead Alive from all over everybody, dude. Just people getting in the face.
Just fire hosed with freaking
Yeah.
blood, dude. The whole audience. It's like
Right.
insane. It's not like, oh, her arm came off and she's bleeding. No. She's just a bag of fucking.
It reminded me of the old like Shaw Brothers kung fu flicks and shit, where they'd get it'd be like, psst, you know?
Oh yeah, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it was intense. And then on top of that, you have like these Vegas dancers, and they're nude and they're getting the blood and gore sprayed all over them, and Dennis Quaid's getting it in the face, and it's insane. It's more than just they're spraying these people. You're seeing like this is a fuck you to this whole world.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you're here for the like this is what you wanted, just the blood, the flesh and blood. All the Hollywood is flesh and
It's
blood.
almost like she's punishing you for watching this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you watch
way,
this
though.
and now this is what you get.
This is what you get for hanging out this far. And I hope, at least for me, I mean, I've been thinking about this movie on and off since I watched it.
Me too. Yeah.
I think that's a great thing. That's a great, powerful thing that can happen. But she's spraying fucking viscous just all over the place. People are getting covered. And then she explodes? Am I remembering that right?
No, not yet. No, she tries to leave. She goes back down that long hallway. She tries to escape and everything. She winds up out on the street, and then everybody's like, "Oh my God, what is it?"
Yeah, yeah.
And then her like feet crack and she falls forward and then she explodes on the street.
Of just blood and guts and then just a face. Oh, we forgot to mention we opened up on her Hollywood sign, and that is a really great, it
Right,
comes all the way full circle of
right.
them cutting the actual star, putting her name in it, and then we see it on the street with like mustard and ketchup and shit dumped all over it. But her face blob crawls its way over to her Hollywood star
Yeah.
and just kind of like becomes a shit smear on her star and then is just cleaned up by the street sweeper
Yep.
after the fact and the existence of
Never existed, dude.
right.
That was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Damn,
Yeah, like it
it
gave me
was
chills at the end,
poetic.
like as
Poetic.
gross as it was.
It was
It
so
reminded me of
poetic.
The Thing. So it like had all these like kickbacks, these movies that I've loved for all this time, but then it had this message. And I think that that's the difference between what Cronenberg did and what she was able to accomplish is that she was really able to drive home the message. She wasn't making a horror movie.
Yeah. See, I think he did too, though, at times. And maybe we should
I
revisit some
do.
Cronenberg, because, but his was
His was more buried, I think, and it celebrated the horror of it more, I
like
think.
Romero almost with some of his zombie stuff.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you can pick apart the consumerism and shit from all that. And I think it has a lot to say. But to your point, lent more to the horror aspect where this leans heavier into the actual psychological component of dealing
Yeah.
with that as an individual.
And
And
this felt like an indie film to me, not a horror film.
sure, sure. And you get, her being the creative process behind the whole thing. And I think that's what a lot of, and we did forget to mention, dude, we lost fucking Titan this week with David Lynch, man.
Yeah.
Lost a fucking Titan. One of my favorites because that motherfucker used to always wear t-shirts and shit that would just say like meditate and create. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was all about meditation, all about this stuff. Like I was thinking of it after he passed. I'm like, shit, I might actually be able to communicate with my mans now a little bit, through, and I know that's very big and very out there, but
Have you read his book?
oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I read it and listened to the audiobook because he read it. And I was like, I just love him, dude. Yeah. Love the man. Great impact on the world. So super cool shit there. But Cronenberg, David Lynch, a lot of these guys who were like, I'm gonna make my shit my way. And
Mhm.
she's doing the same thing. I'm gonna make it my way. And she can pull from this is such a human experience
Absolutely.
that I think is fucking awesome and we'll
She
leave
stuck
it.
to her guns and didn't go with a studio. She made it happen her way at a time when studios are not making these movies.
Mm,
And this movie was financially successful in the theater, which just goes to show that you will have an audience show up. We don't need fucking 15 Avenger movies to go
right.
to the theater.
People will show up and to see a titty fall out of a fucking eyeball.
The titty fell out of this fucking creature on stage, dude. It slowly barfed up a full titty. Holy shit, I've never seen anything that repulsive. And oh, dude, like I had to turn away when it was coming out, and I turned right back as it hit the stage, and I was like, perfect time to open my eyes back up. Like,
Right? And it
I
only
don't
did
think
a little
since
tail, like a little umbilical
like
cord.
like the back of an eyeball, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just falls, and everybody just kind of looks at it. And even the monster looks at it and is like, oh, how embarrassing.
Right. My titty fell out. Whoa. And practical again. That,
Oh,
it's a whole, it looked like Jim Carrey coming out that rhino asshole.
oh, yeah, it did, dude. Oh, oh, man.
And when nature calls. Uh okay, so out of five, how many thrown up eyeball titties do you give the substance?
Dude, I gotta say, I mean, for horror and for a message and a good story, I mean, this 4.80. Like, I want to give it a five so bad, but then I just think of Jaws and I'm like, it's not Jaws.
Right. I did have some problems with this, but very few and far between. For me, it's a 4 or 5 across the board. It is fucking exceptional, dude.
Yeah.
It is so well done. Um, there are again some of the pieces where I was like, okay, story wise, like this maybe wasn't as much, for me. Like her, I think it's just the contractor thing took away half a point. I'm like,
Right.
dude, like You can't do that. I mean, it just that
I
was a
really felt,
it's like James Bond style fucking false
yeah,
alarm, man. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, no, it was.
yeah.
I felt like throughout this thing that I think there's a longer cut of this movie somewhere.
Yeah. There's a longer cut of every movie somewhere that we just don't get.
Right.
But this one for sure, I think there is a longer cut, and
I don't know if I can handle a longer cut though.
it would be hard,
I was
dude.
ready to get out. As much as I was enjoying this movie, I was ready to go fucking watch some Disney.
Yeah, it
I
was
watched the Ninja Turtle cartoon, dude, as my palate cleanser.
nice. Which one? Which era?
Like the OG 80s turtle
Yeah.
commercial. If you go on Prime, it's on like live TV Prime all the time. So you can't, you're gonna catch it in the middle of an episode probably, but it just plays like the Ninja Turtle channel all day long.
There's one on Pluto that's like that, but it plays a bunch of different eras. Now, with the original, the OG series, I own all 10 digitally seasons. So I'll just
Oh,
throw it
damn.
out sometimes and let it run in the background because, yeah. And then I go back and watch it. I'm like, man, you fuckers were selling us so many toys, dude. Every episode was a new character. Fucking mutagen man, Mondo Gecko. Like, these are all cool badasses. Get your mom to buy you the toy. But yeah, Turtles is fucking best. Speaking of which, I dropped my animation cell off to be framed up. I gotta go back. That should be done by now. I want to get that back. So yeah, dude, the substance, check it out if you haven't seen it. But
You
be
got the stomach for it. Check it
yeah,
out.
yeah, it definitely is one that puts you through the ringer. For me, it wasn't so even so much of the gore, it was the emotional things that it was forcing me to confront and, look at my own perspectives on shit and be in this place of like, fuck, that is fucked up.
Right.
That system, and it's been that way for so long. And it just sucks. It sucks. But I do think, with her doing this and Demi Moore doing this, I think we're starting to see some change, and hopefully we start to see, the lady from The Shining, I guess, being presented as sexy coming out of the bathtub. Like, yeah,
Rub a titty.
yeah, I'm gonna throw up a booby. Hey. Uh,
That scared me like the word. That was the thing that got me as a child is that I would be scared. I would sleep on the floor of my parents' room because I was terrified, and their shower would drip constantly. And I thought it was her footsteps, dude, coming out
oh,
because my fucking ass cousin made me watch The Shining when I was like way too young to be watching that shit.
and I just pictured you like 17 years old sleeping on your parents' bedroom floor. Fucking, it was too scary.
This was last night, dude. I called my mommy up.
You got to get out of her fucking bed, Jason. That's good, dude. That's good. I'm going to pitch you an idea. Tell me if you think this is any good. You ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, I know you're not a big football guy or anything, but the Detroit Lions lost to a team that everybody thought they were going to like crush this thing, right? The Lions have always been owned by the Ford family, Ford Motor Company. I like an idea where the Ford Motor, like whoever originally started it, Henry and them, sold their souls to the devil for the riches and the ability for all this. But one of the caveats was you'll have all the best, but you will never win. You will have all the
Nice.
best. Yeah, I'm like, that would be a fun little fucking
Yeah.
5 minutes short of them,
We're
old.
gonna have to cut that shit out, dude. Someone's gonna steal that.
Hey, we got the proof though. We recorded it earlier. You stole our
That's
idea.
right.
That would be easier, honestly. Like, just pay me the money on the back end. You could steal my idea as long as you give me a little bit of the money. I ain't got to put the work in. Um, so yeah. Anyway, mindfulness portion of the show. This is actually, I was like, well, what the fuck am I going to talk about today? But then I was talking to my kid last night, in light of all this TikTok stuff that's been going on, and people being all really up in arms about this shit.
Yeah.
And we started talking about the idea of human presence and being able to interact with each other. And I told my kid, I'm like, you want to stand out different in the world, be different. Be different.
Yeah.
Don't be on your phone. Because I told him, and I was going to share this with you as well. But when I was this past week, man, I feel like I'm on the precipice of like a next level in a lot of this shit that I've been kind of pursuing. And things you and I have been talking about, and I looked at all of my time. Like I'm trying to buy my time back. And I was talking to my kid, and I'm like, dude, if so the average, we talked about it, and I think I got the numbers a little bit wrong last week. Like TikTok might be a little over an hour that everybody does every day, but total social media was like 2 hours, almost 3 hours, like 2 hours and 45 minutes, 2 hours, 3 minutes, something like that. And I told my kid, I said, if you just bought that time back and used that, and that's what I'm personally trying to do myself. I'm like, I think I might just shut down all the social medias and then tell everybody, like, hey, in 3 months, I'm shutting all this shit down. If you want to be close to me, fucking reach out to me. And if you feel it's that important to be close to me, like if we're that close, you should probably have my phone number anyway. I'll fucking give it to you. You can send me a text message whenever you want. But tearing all of this stuff down, and I was like, if you were to, you will by natural byproduct, you will start to stand out differently from everything around you. You will develop yourself to the point where it's like, if you just gave yourself 2 hours a day, and I'm like, I'm going to use that to develop myself one way or the other. The problem with social media, I feel, and with our computers in our pockets, is it's not 2 hours straight. It's 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, 8 minutes here, 7 minutes there, 6 minutes here, and it collectively just sucks up all your time. But if you were to say, hey, I don't even have those to go to,
Right.
now you start getting bored, and it's probably going to be really fucking uncomfortable for a couple days. It's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel not right because we built in the habit systems. And when we start to try and break habits in our brains, it gets hard. But if we can replace them with something else, but can you imagine? So over the course, even if it was 2 hours a day, over the course of 7 days, you'd have 14 hours, take that 14. So you got 28 and then 60 or no, 40, 28, that'd be 40, 56. So that'd be 56 hours over the course of, a couple weeks, a month. And then you compound that. But while you're doing that, everyone else is still doing that same shit they were doing. And I don't even blame everyone else for doing it. The algorithms are designed to keep you there. That is what they want because we don't pay for it. So they are buying us. They're buying us at the end of that transaction. If somebody's not like fucking, if you ain't paying for something, somebody's buying you. Like they are buying you. But if you were to take that small amount of time and just let it slowly compound for all those people who are like, oh, I'd love to write a book. I'd love to fucking do this. I'd love to do that. If you bought your time back, if we buy our time back, do that. Do whatever the fuck you want to do because this life, and this is where I feel like I'm starting to kind of come to another place. I really am in this environment of like experiencing and trying to experiencing as it comes. And it's becoming remarkably easy. Like, I'm like, holy fuck, dude. Like I'm snapping back with like single breaths, like get distracted or thoughts that used to just cloud now just fucking flow by. It'll be like where I used to get stuck on a thought for maybe like 10, 15 minutes, a half hour, sometimes for days. Now it's seconds. It's seconds. And it's just like, yep. And now, but being so present, I shouldn't say being so present. I try to be present. I do because you'll never be fully present all the time. That just doesn't exist. I try to be present, but I'm noticing like, fuck, I want to do things. You know what I mean? And this doesn't feel good. Like hanging out, just scrolling. It doesn't fucking feel right for me. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about those things. But then there's also that part of me that knows I have to get rid of those dopamine hits that come with social media. I need to get rid of the notion that it's somehow gonna validate me or make me a more loved person, like going to that for love instead of finding in my real relationships that seem to be more valuable anyway. My family and super close friends and shit like that. But if we could buy that time back, man, buy that time and then apply it to other things. And I'm not going to say everything I'm applying it to right now, but I've got some fucking shit planned out. Your boy's somebody who likes to have plans and be like, yo, I'm going to move towards this. This is the pieces that we'd have to put in place. But I am moving towards some shit that I think for me is going to be really healthy. But when I looked at that amount of time, and I'm not someone who uses social media a lot, it might be 20 minutes a day total on all of them. And that's with like messages and shit like that. And we are on a social media platform.
Right.
YouTube is
That's why I struggle with that for sure.
yeah, yeah. We are on a social media platform. I was thinking like, fuck, if you lived close, dude, I would try and find a way to buy us public access. A 30-minute show, an hour show, even if it's at 4:30 in the morning, we will just do this shit live on TV. Just have a little table between us, a couple microphones, and just sit there and put that shit out. And then who knows, dude? The people who find it would probably be like, holy shit, like this is crazy. Um, but yeah, I think buying our time back is so hyper important and using that because we're all gonna fucking die, dude. We're all gonna fucking die one day. And my eyes are just seeing it. I feel like they see it a little bit differently now, the value of the time, like how important. I constantly view things with the notion of death at the back of my mind, but not in a bad way. Not like, oh, I'm terrified to die. It's just the realization that everything is finite.
Yeah.
Everything, every relationship, every hug, every conversation, every breath. As soon as it's gone, that one's gone forever. Like you can't, and so for me, viewing things that way seems to really help, and it seems to really make life important and make those relationships important and realize that having a celebrity status would not, make you happy. Having a bunch of money is not going to make you happy. Having food in your belly is going to make you content. And then you are a place to sleep is going to make you happy. And then you can kind of go from there. Then having relationships, those are really important. But having all that stuff isn't going to make me happy. But if everyone else, and I'll try and I'll stop here and then let you add anything you want to add to this. If everyone else is doing that one thing and you do the opposite, you are going to stand the fuck out like a sore thumb, probably in a good way.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
are like, what are you doing? And it's like, oh, it's what I had to give up. I value myself. I'm valuing myself, I guess. I'm valuing my time. That's what I'm doing. I'm saying that what A is more important than B to me because I only have so much time, that A is more important than B. So, anything you want to add to that little ramble there,
Yeah,
mindfulness?
no, I'm on the same page as you there. And I kind of get to see it every single day because I work on the seventh floor of an office building, and I'll go up and down that elevator probably 10 times a day. And every time I get in that elevator, five strangers walk into a little door together and they can't fucking handle it. So they pull their phones out to not to not even have to be like, hey, what's up? Or hey, thanks for holding the door for me. They pull their phone out so they don't have to interact because they're uncomfortable being that close to five people.
I was
And
just reading an article. I was going to use that for the mindfulness today, but I didn't get a chance to finish it. This article about exactly what you're talking about, how people don't know how to communicate in person anymore because
yeah,
everything is digital. And that the new norm is to text someone and say, is it okay if I call you?
oh yeah, yeah,
Which is, to prevent, oh, God forbid, lend my voice to your ear out of the blue. And you're like,
right,
no, I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. And people are starting to now not know how to talk. And
yeah,
it's like, I don't know how to communicate because in person, I know how to communicate digitally, but I don't know how to communicate, like you said, in an elevator, where it's like, yo, bro, I like your shoes. What the fuck's up? How you doing today?
right,
Just
right.
that we're starting to lose that.
And my instinct when everybody pulls their phone out, I'll literally touch my pocket. I'm going for it, dude. And I have to slap my hand away and be like, no, dude, just ride. If you feel uncomfortable, just live in that uncomfortableness for a minute.
I
Life shouldn't be
love that,
comfortable all the time because
dude.
if you don't have, if you're comfortable, like comfortable is the death of everything. It's the death of inspiration. It's the death of your physical body. It's everything. Be uncomfortable, do things to get out of that uncomfortableness, but don't hide from it. Move forward from it.
You hit the nail on the head, dude. You said, I try to just sit in my uncomfortable. And that's so important. Don't try and fight it and say, I shouldn't be uncomfortable.
Right.
Just breathe in it and be like, what is this? And just sit there and breathe in it. Let the uncomfortable be there, but don't engage it. Just sit with it. And the Pavlov's dog thing is 100%. I would almost like to, like, you secretly film people. We'll go out to different locations and I'll just ping different notification sounds and see how many people go for their phones. You
Oh,
know what I
totally.
mean? Yeah. Or even the buzz, even if they just were like, if, because it's been proven many times over that if you see someone pull out their phone, you instinctually go for your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything there for me? Do I get a treat? Do I get wagging your tail all pretty? Like, do I get a treat from my phone? So yeah, horror pop extravaganza, bringing it to you people. Macabre to mindful, titty eyes. That's it. No, I don't think we've discussed next week yet. Shit, we've been trying to be a little bit better about saying it beforehand. I feel like there was a couple before these ones that we had gotten into, and I want to say some other people recommended some things.
I watched that was pretty cool.
What's
I watched that documentary of George Romero and his Evil Dead movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that was cool. Or not Evil Dead, Resident Evil.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The actual. Have you seen the amusement park? The one he did that came out after he had passed?
Mm-mm.
That's one you would really struggle with because it's all about old people. It's kind of, you know what though? It's very, very reminiscent and maybe even more powerful than the substance in that it's showcasing how once you reach a certain age, you're just forgotten by society. You know, you're just left behind. Nobody, they stick you in a home, they do this. It's good, dude. It's really good. But we'll come up with something. Sorry, we can't give it to you right now. But that's the nature of the beast, man. Nature of the beast. So we'll get something good on the chopping block for the horror pop extravaganza. I have been Pops Ghostly.
And I'm Curly Hairs.
No! No! No!
Extravaganza.